Hello everyone, my name is Madison, and I am going to once again be making videos on the Minnesota 4-H State Horse Show patterns. Sadly, this year I will not be getting through all of them, at least not timely enough for those of you showing to actually see all of them. But I did promise to get through the showmanship patterns before I actually head down to the state show myself. So if you were at the state show this year, I will be there helping out and doing some things, so I will probably see you. But without further ado, let's go through the showmanship patterns. So, like I said, showmanship, we are going to be going through grades 6 through 9, 10 through 13, and the English patterns as well. So I decided also to do something a little bit different this year. Rather than having a picture of the pattern itself, I am going to instead draw the patterns and just add notes in on my own because I feel like it is a cleaner look than me trying to add a bunch of things on top of the pattern. It can get a little bit messy. So we're going to start with, in my opinion, the most simple pattern and work up from there. So we're going to start with the PT and the English, then we're going to do the 6 through 9, and then we're going to do the grades 13 and up. However, for all of these patterns, they all have a very similar shape. Really, the only difference between them is going to be the pivots, and other than the English pattern, which doesn't have a back, that's the only difference. For all of these patterns, you have this main straightaway where you're going to start at cone A, you're going to go straight towards the judge, you're then going to do a pivot, going to have an arc, where you're going to go towards B. You'll stop, do something. We'll go through each step. Then you're going to go back. Once you're even with A, you're going to stop. Once you have finished stopping, you are done with the pattern. This is for every single pattern. All of you are going to stop even with A, and then you are done. I made a specific point of drawing and making that very clear because on the patterns themselves, I don't think that is very clear. And so I think a lot of people are going to not stop, and because of that, you're going to have a lower score. Make sure you stop even with A before you exit. So for the PT and the English, you guys are going to walk 2 horse lengths. 2 horse lengths are 8 steps. A horse length is 4 steps. So for 2 horse lengths, 8 steps. I'm going to start here. Because you're going to be in line with the judge, you're not going to be crossed over. You're going to be on the leading side. Walk 8 steps. You're then going to trot to the judge, stop, have your inspection. You're then going to pivot 180 degrees, so you are facing cone A back where you came from. You're then going to trot a arc. They do specifically say a arc. In the patterns, I feel like it looks like a square corner. And so for those of you who have more showing experience or a horse that is more broke, I would say to try and make this more of a square corner, especially since your horse is going to be on the outside. You're less likely to accidentally have your horse break. Make sure you practice making some tighter turns because this will be in only half of the Ag Star arena. You're going to have a more limited space than um, probably what you're used to setting up a pattern as, because a lot of open and 4HO patterns are set up just astronomically huge. So you're going to trot, go through this arc, you're going to go straight. The cone is going to be on your left. Cone B, I should say, is going to be on your left. That's the same for all of the patterns. You're then going to stop. And for all of the patterns, they specify that they want you to stop with the horse's shoulder at B. And I appreciate them saying this because typically when you stop at a cone, you are stopping with the horse's nose. In this situation, you're going to stop with the horse's shoulder. So you, the exhibitor, should be past the cone just slightly. It's not a hip stop. You're not stopping with the horse's hip at the cone. You're going to stop with the horse's shoulder at the cone. In the PT and English pattern, you're then going to perform a 90-degree turn. You're then going to walk until you're even with A, and then you will stop. Once you've stopped, do not look back at the judge. That is more so just a waste of time than anything, and there's no point. So just stop, hesitate, take a deep breath, and then just go to the exit. Follow whatever the ranger told you to, and you're good. Go through this one more time really quickly. Walk 2 horse lengths, 8 steps. Trot, to the judge. You're then going to make a 180-degree turn or half turn where you should probably expect this to be, so where cone B will be. So they set up this pattern and how it's drawn as well, and I anticipate them setting it up this way, is in thirds. So this will be 2 horse lengths, and this should be anywhere from 4 to 6 horse lengths of trotting. Um, I would expect it to be closer to 4 just because of how big that arena is. So when you're practicing, expect your trot distance to be about 4 horse lengths. Take that information as you will when you're practicing, which means once you pivot, this is only going to be about 1 horse length because once you've pivoted, that takes up a horse length. I expect this to come up a lot quicker than you think for where you need to turn with B. However, because B is going to be on your left side, if you end up coming down here a little bit further, it's not the end of the world. Just make sure you're not, back where you had your walk to begin with. Okay, so that's everything I have for the PT and the English. Good luck to you at the stage show. Grade 6 through 9, you guys have a pattern that is very similar to the 10 and up, which typically they make the 10 and up pattern quite a bit harder than the 6 through 8. There's quite a bit to this pattern, but I think if you break it down, it'll be okay. I'm going to start by just going through the general shape that I did with the other group. This walk is going to be 8 steps because it says to walk 2 horse lengths. A horse length is 4 steps. It always has and always will be. So you're going to walk 8 steps. You're going to trot to the judge. You're going to stop for inspection. Pivot 180. Trot and arc. We'll talk about that in a little bit. At cone B, you're going to stop, perform a 180-degree turn again. So you will be facing this far wall. You're then going to back up past B. Now, because you're going to be stopping, well, I'll come back through and go through it again with you. 180-degree turn, back past B, 270, so 3/4 turn. If it helps you, I put the fraction in a circle for all the pivots. 3/4 turn, trot until you're even with A again. Then you're going to stop. Once you've stopped, you're done. So let's go through it a little bit slower one more time. You guys are going to start at A. Now, because you're going to be starting in line with the judge, and please make sure when you're walking up to cone A, you are lining up so your horse is in line with the judge, not you, your horse. And so that way you're going to stay on the leading side. Once the judge nods to you, acknowledges you, you can then go. You don't have to cross back over. Don't do that. Just stay on the leading side. Like I started with 8 steps. You're then going to trot to the judge, stop for inspection, 180 turn. So I mentioned this with the other group as well, but they basically how they have drawn this pattern and how I drew it because I wanted it to be as close to theirs as possible is that this first line is essentially broken up into thirds. So you walk a third of it, and then where your trot and B cone is going to be coming off of it is also a third. So you've got a third, a third, a third. I expect since this is 2 horse lengths, this trot section will be about 2 to 5, maybe 6 horse lengths if they're being generous to you guys. So once you perform this 180-degree turn, you're then going to have about 1, maybe 2 horse lengths that you trot straight before you make this curve. If you are trying to bump up your score, and you have a horse that's pretty broke and you've been practicing showmanship every single day, because you should be practicing showmanship every single day, you will be able to perform more of a square corner here. If you have no idea what I'm talking about and say, I just do showmanship for fun, I don't really have that much experience showing it, don't worry too much about what this arc shape looks like. Just make sure that you end up straight here and you are looking at something down here and you have cone B on your left. Then we're going to talk about what happens here at cone B because it can get a little confusing. So they specifically say to stop with the horse's shoulder at B. I appreciate them specifying this because typically when you stop at a cone, you stop with the horse's nose at the cone. So you're going to go past where you would want to stop, really. For some people, if your horse is terrible at stopping, you're still going to ask them to stop at B and then you're just going to run right through. But ideally, the cone should be slightly behind you because when you are leading your horse, you are even with the horse's throat latch. So the cone should be just a little bit behind you, meaning that it's at the horse's shoulder. So you're going to stop here. Let me get my pointer. Laser pointer. Great. So you're going to stop here at B. You're then going to do a 180-degree turn, so you and your horse are facing this way. You're then going to back, and it just says to back past B. So depending on your horse, depending on how this pivot goes, that could be anywhere from 6 to 10 steps. If you have a horse that's small but takes really big steps, maybe it's only 6. If your pivot gets sloppy and your horse kind of bleeds forward this way, you might need 10 steps. The biggest thing is just make sure that this back is as straight as you can have it. And to make this back straight, your pivot is going to need to be 180 degrees. It can't be, 190 or 170. You need it to be 180. So I would back, and it depends once you get out there on you and your horse as well. Plan for anywhere between 6 and 10 steps. This distance is probably a lot further than you typically practice backing in showmanship. So if you're watching this video hopefully the same night that I'm posting it, you should go out and practice backing your horse a good 10 steps and making sure that they're comfortable with that. Obviously, if you don't practice showmanship very often, this is going to be difficult to get 6 to 10 nice back steps, but just make sure you do your best. And the reason why they have you back past B is because you're then going to do this 270 turn. So obviously, if you only back, 2, maybe 3 steps, you, the exhibitor, when you go to pivot, are going to run over cone B. So that's why I would go further than you would really think or plan that you should. Basically, you should back or make sure you back at least until you can no longer see B anymore. Once you've done that, you've got your 270 turn, 3/4. From there, you want to make sure that you find something down here. You're going to trot straight towards it. So you're looking something, trotting straight at it. Once you are even with B, let me make sure that it doesn't specify how to stop. Yeah, it just says even with B, or A, sorry. Even with A. I wrote it right there. Now here it doesn't specify whether you have to do a shoulder stop or a nose stop, so I would do a standard stop even with the horse's nose. Once you have stopped, your pattern is over. Do not look at the judge, just as a waste of time. It slows the show down, so do not look back. Judges are busy their scribes are busy taking notes anyway, and the judges are looking for the next horse to come in. Just stop, hesitate, take a deep breath, and then exit. Okay, so grade 9, that is everything I have for you. Good luck, have fun, and I wish you the best. Grade 10 through 13. We're at the end of the showmanship patterns. Because I know probably the vast majority of the people watching this are in grade 13, 10 to 13. Or if you're watching all the way into this video this far, you probably liked it. And so you should push the like button on the video so more people are encouraged to watch my videos. So that would be cool. Let's start without further ado. Okay, so just like everybody else's pattern, basically if you want more in-depth information, you can watch the 6 through 9 because your patterns are almost the exact same. The only difference between the two is this 1.5 turn versus only a half turn. But I will give you guys pretty much the exact same spiel that I gave them. So you are going to walk 2 horse lengths. That is 8 steps. It has always been 8 steps for 2 horse lengths because a horse length is 4 steps. So you're then going to pick up the trot to the judge, set up for inspection. Once you've completed inspection and the judge excuses you, you're going to do a 1.5 turn. So you are facing where you came from. You're then going to trot this corner. As I made here for little notes, if you've been practicing or doing showmanship for a longer period of time, you can probably make this more of a square corner, and that might give you some extra points. Because the horse is going to be on the outside, because you are on the left of the horse, you don't have as high a risk of your horse accidentally breaking gait because you are on the inside track for this curve. And so I'm more comfortable telling you guys that you can maybe make this more of a square corner than an arc, I should say. But it also does not say make a square corner. So I will leave that discretion up to you. It is kind of drawn like a square corner though. Okay, so here at cone B, they do specifically say that you want to have the horse's shoulder even with cone B when you stop. Please make sure you practice this. because typically when we do a stop at a cone, we always stop with the horse's nose at the cone. So the point that they're explicitly saying the horse's shoulder, make sure you practice that and you don't forget. A shoulder stop, you're going to go so you, the exhibitor, are about a step and a half past the cone. If horse is on your right, cone is on your left, you should be where the cone is just behind you. Once you've gotten to cone B, you're going to stop. You then do a 180 turn or half turn, so you are facing this direction. Once you've done that, you are going to back past B. For you guys, I specifically said 8 to 10 steps because I feel like grade 10 through 13, you should have more experience and have a better grasp on these kinds of things, and you should easily be able to ask your horse for 8 to 10 steps. I'm going to back up. The reason we're doing 8 to 10 steps is because we have this pivot here. If you only back, let's say 4, you're maybe going to just have your horse's nose here at this cone, which means that when you pivot, you run the risk of potentially running it over. I would do closer to 8 to 10 steps, really show off that back, get them marching backwards with you. Then you're going to do this 3/4 turn. You're going to be facing presumably the same direction where you came in from, which will have a double door. You're then going to ask your horse to trot. Make sure that you are from a stop right to a trot. Don't have a bunch of steps where you're like walking into it. Don't bleed into your gait transition. So from a stop out of your pivot, just right into the trot. Once you are even with A, you are going to stop. I am making a point for everybody's pattern to draw and like make a lot of notes down here because I don't think the drawing shows it very well that you guys are supposed to stop at the end of the pattern. So I expect a lot of people to forget if they are just glancing at this. They do not specify whether or not you have the horse's shoulder or anything. So I assume it's a typical nose even with the cone stop. Once you've stopped, take a deep breath. You're done. And then do not look back at the judge and you can exit. That is everything. That is everything I have for you guys. Again, if you are still here, that means you liked the video and thought it was helpful, so you should probably push the like button. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can put them in the comment section. That's kind of what it's for. Once again, good luck to you and your horses at the Minnesota State 4-H Horse Show 2023. I will be putting out the other patterns, horsemanship, equitation, and trail. However, it will not be before the start or before the horse show is over, but I will still post them. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.